Hey guys, it's Jason Coleman, and if you're like me, and like millions of Americans apparently, you are loving The Walking Dead. I've been watching The Walking Dead since it started, and luckily I've been able to watch it after each episode rather than DVRing it for weeks before I watch anything. But if you're like me also, you're hooked, and you're faithfully watching every episode, wondering what's going on next. And this is one of the shows, kind of like Game of Thrones, that I love so much that, hey, it's worth talking about. Let's talk about it. What are your thoughts on the show? So I'm going to tell you some of my theories. As a kind of a video producer, I've got some theories on what's going on. And as just a fan of the show, I have some theories as well. But let's talk about it. I want to hear your comments. I want to hear what you're thinking about the show. I love it. I'm sure you do too. So I've actually made notes. It's pretty lame, but it's the truth. The first thing I want to talk about is how the producers and the writers of the show have kind of stacked the deck, so to speak. If you notice, when we come back for this season, there's a lot more folks at the prison. There's several reasons for that, I think, from a producer standpoint. One of them is, for this kind of show, there's more people to kill. There's more carnage, more blood. And that's something that the show is not only known for, but also something that people are constantly wanting. You know, the newest way for a zombie to show up, the newest way for a cast member to get killed, is always something that's been around in horror since I was a kid and watching the slasher movies with Jason and Freddy and all those guys, and Michael Myers. It's always about the next coolest kill or the next coolest way somebody dies. Are we a sick society or what? But apparently we are. So the other thing that does, and you're wondering, where did all these cast members come from? You know, some of them we know where they came from, but some of them were like, how did we end up with a prison full of people? And I think a lot of that not only has to do with them being able to kill off more characters, but it also gives them the opportunity for flashbacks. And that's something that I kind of hate about writing for television. And the way writers use that for flashbacks. I think flashbacks are kind of lame, but that's my personal opinion. What do you think? I think flashbacks are lame. You might not. You might think it's a cool way to add kind of a crazy timeline in there, a la, you know, what was that movie with John Travolta in it? You know what I'm talking about. Crazy timelines, flipping back and forth, you're trying to figure out how it all happens and how it all went down. And that's kind of what a flashback does for the writers and the producers. Also, and this is a big one, and I'm going to jump out there and say that this is what's going on. But ever since the sickness came into the prison and people started dropping, I've noticed the way that the show has been shot. There's been, I don't know if you've noticed this, surely you have, because you're just as smarter than I am, that there's been a lot of emphasis on water. If you notice, the very first guy to really drop in the prison was in the shower. There was a lot of emphasis on him laying in the water, and a lot of emphasis on the shower head and the water dripping from the shower head. We've noticed that water's become an issue. Carol's gone outside the fence to unclog the water hoses. She's gotten frustrated and knocked over water barrels. I think there's a lot of emphasis on the water because we might see later on, I'm guessing, we might see later on that the sickness might be coming from the water. That's why people are getting sick. That's my guess. What do you think it is? Could be anything. So let's talk about some of the characters. We know Rick has been going through some issues with trying to decide if he should be the leader anymore, if he should stay away from you know, killing zombies, if he should be more concerned with taking care of his people rather than, you know, protecting them and killing zombies, and trying to keep his son protected from all of that as well. So Carl is going through kind of a metamorphosis where he's, you know, he knows he can kill zombies, but luckily, you know, he's gotten to a point where he knows, and I think we saw in this last episode, he knows when he doesn't need to kill a zombie, which is interesting for Carl because I thought he was going to go the opposite direction. Now, here's a big one for me. I have not read the comic book. I have no idea what the comic book is about or anything. I'm only a television show watcher. So for those of you who've read the comic book, you probably know what's coming. Don't know what's coming. I'm not sure, but I have no clue. So for me, it's all about the show, and I'm just reading the show and what I think the show is going on. So, all right, we got Glenn has gotten sick, and you've got Daryl and Tyrese and Michonne have gone out looking for antibiotics because they want to help all the people that are in, what is it, D block, I believe. So there's an interesting dynamic going on there. You've got the mass of walkers coming from the direction where Daryl and Tyrese and Michonne were headed. You know, that harkens back to previous episodes where they're talking about the herds of walkers. That's how they had to leave the farm, because a herd came through. Well, here comes another herd. What's going to happen there? You tell me. Let's guess. I think it'll be kind of fun to hear what people have to say about that. So we're worried about them, and Tyrese is going through a personal thing where, you know, his love interest has been taken out, and Rick finds out it's Carol, and she flat out admits it, which, you know, more power to her, more power to Rick, but what's Rick going to do? Surely he's been with Carol longer than he's been with Tyrese, even though he understands what Tyrese is going through, has been there, he knows exactly what he's going through, but I don't think he's going to give Carol up. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic where Tyrese is going to create more and more tension with Rick about finding out who it was, and Rick is not going to be telling him, so it's going to cause some tension there, which may be interesting in the future. With Glenn being sick and that whole dynamic, I have no idea which way that's going to go. I'm going to assume that somehow or another, Daryl and the crew are going to find antibiotics and come back and at least save Glenn. I'd hate to see Glenn leave the show. He's a great actor, and he adds a really interesting middleman kind of dynamic to the show. But let's not forget, and you may think it's crazy because I haven't read the comic book, so I have no idea, but the governor is still out there. So I'm a huge fan of The Walking Dead, as you can see, and sadly I've taken notes about what we're going to talk about. So what are your thoughts? Which way do you think the show is going to go? Let me hear from you. I'd love to see some video links, and if nothing else, say something in the comments, and we'll talk to you after the next episode. I'm looking forward to it. We'll see you next time.